Howdy, and welcome to another episode of Adult Onset Horsemanship. I'm your host, Daniel Dolphin. My guest for this winter solstice episode of the Adult Onset Horsemanship podcast is Miss Maddy Butcher. She is a native of the state of Maine. She has a Bachelor of Arts from Brown University. She has been a professional journalist who is now transplanted to Southwest Colorado. She's the author of 3 books, A Rider's Reader, Horsehead, and Beasts of Being. She is the founder of the Knicker News, Cayuse Communications, High Country Outsider, and the Best Horse Practices Summit. She is half of the team of the Best Horse Practices podcast, a girl power enthusiast, the mother of 3 sons, and a whole pack of dogs. And she has also helped on the book Evidence-Based Horsemanship with Dr. Steve Peters and Martin Black. Miss Maddy Butcher, how are you today, Maddy?
I'm good. What a hell of an introduction. Thank you so much, Daniel.
No problem. Yes, ma'am. You've done a lot.
Well, maybe it's getting bored at stuff and trying to stay versatile.
Nothing wrong with that. Boredom has produced probably more great inventions and works of art in our time than maybe anything else.
Perhaps, yeah. I guess boredom might be the wrong word, but I would like to think that, well, I wouldn't use the word Renaissance, a Renaissance person, but just good enough to be dangerous at a lot of different things.
Yes, ma'am. I think we have a pretty similar personality type there.
I do too.
Are you ready for the lightning round question?
Yes, I am. I have my seatbelt fastened.
And I've changed them up. I've tweaked them a little bit here. I'm trying to fine tune these questions. So, what is your favorite way to relax?
I guess just intuitively, I would say sitting on a fence watching horses. Definitely takes my mind away from other things, and I see it kind of like watching waves come in on a beach or watching fire in a bonfire. It's just endlessly evolving, and it's real easy to get sucked into just watching the dynamics go on, and everything from their muscles twitching to their eyes and ears and everything. So that's my first answer, and I'm sticking with it.
That's primal too. Are you a savage deep down at heart somewhere?
Aren't we all?
Hopefully. Some of us have lost touch with our inner savage for sure, but I know where mine is. So
okay.
Morning or evening?
In terms of?
What's your favorite time of day? Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I don't know. I'm going to have to split that because I definitely was raised as a early to bed, early to rise person. However, when you work for a newspaper, most of the shifts are second shift, which is to say you're getting home around 12 or 1 in the morning. And I gleefully adopted that when I was younger, and so I'd say I go both ways.
Okay. Bay or sorrel?
Oh, tough one. Well, I don't have any bays in my dry lot. And I guess my track record is not with bays much at all. Can I go gray?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going gray because the 2 geldings that I have are both gray. One's kind of a strawberry gray, and one actually his registration says Palomino, but he is gray with dark points. And I think they're both awful pretty. Okay,
I'm going to go a step further. Flea bitten or dappled?
I'm going to split it because I got one of each.
All right. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh, definitely not.
Okay. Do you have a particular pet peeve?
Raisins in anything in my saddlebag. Okay. That's what comes to mind. Don't put any raisins in my oatmeal, in my cookies, or in my trail mix.
Do you have a favorite beverage?
let's see, in the morning, and I try not to mix these up, but in the morning, I'd go with either coffee or tea, or sometimes both. And in the evening, it would be beer. However, I'm just transitioning because it's getting pretty cold here in Colorado. So I generally transition to probably red wine. And I'm a total lightweight. So it'd be, I'm a one and done kind of person.
So on beer, are you like a Coors Light person or like some IPA with grapefruit and bitter and all that kind of stuff?
I'm a total beer snob. Although the best beverage in the summer is like a PBR, half PBR and half lemonade, which is called a shandy to those in the know. And it's the most refreshing drink for the summertime, I believe.
I have never heard of that. That does sound interesting.
Oh, you've never heard of it. You gotta try it. And it's hot where you are. So it's easy to adapt. I've also heard of people putting tomato juice and beer together. But the nice thing about a shandy is that you can buy cheap beer. It works just fine with cheap beer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
This is a horse podcast, right?
Well, we got to get our frame of mind right.
Okay, awesome.
So break the ice, get you off balance a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us something unexpected about you. This is what I'm looking forward to, because after knowing you, if you told me that you live in a hut herding goats in Kazakhstan for 6 years, I would not find that all that surprising. So I'm interested in what you have to say on this one.
Yeah, I'm struggling because, I put the basics out there on the website. So if anyone was doing their homework, they could see that. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. Something surprising. Oh, I'm a grandmother.
Okay.
My first grandbaby was born about 1.5 years ago. She and her family live in Panama, which is a bit heartbreaking because it's, an international trip to get there, but she's delightful. So.
Well, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Have you managed to, I guess probably not yet, get her on a horse in Colorado? That may be some years down the road, I'm guessing. So
I have not managed to. We're working with, as you can imagine, with immigrations, it's a challenge, but we're working on that. And she has been horseback and cowback in Panama. So.
All right, very good. What superpower would you choose?
Dang. And I've just been, what do they call it when people watch something endlessly? Binging. I've just been binging Harry Potter, so this should be easy for me, but I got nothing. Maybe the ability to be kind at the same time as being thick-skinned. If I could elevate those two components.
Okay. I like that. I was thinking, Maddy, I keep expecting this because of the smart ass in me, that I'm going to ask that question and someone is going to say Russia or whatever. And being the journalist that you are, you might be that person. But anyway.
No, I try not to watch the news. Just kidding. I try to be nominally informed.
Thoughts or feelings?
I'm going to split that because as a wordsmith like yourself and as a kind of junior intellectual, thoughts are pretty important to me. However, I think we all should strive for being more feeling-y. So I'm going to split that.
You've just inspired a new question. Decisiveness or indecisiveness?
Definitely decisiveness. Can't you tell?
Yeah. Oh, do you have a favorite piece of horse tack or horse-related tool?
That's a good one. Can I tick off a couple?
Yeah.
I am no pro. So I've been cowboying a little, just trying to learn more about stockmanship. And I get laughed at because I have either a cantle bag or small saddlebags. And, that's not real cool amongst the cowboy crew. And yet I am the only one who has like water when it's 90 out, or a granola bar when we've been working all day. So I like saddlebags, dang it. And I'd say a rasp or nippers, hoof pick, the tools around taking care of my horse's feet, because I'm pretty pleased that I can do that for my 4 horses. And then the last one that you'll see every once in a while on like Facebook, and of course, ranchers and down in your country, probably everybody knows what it is, but people who are in the city might not. It's a fence mender, wire stretcher.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, I keep one in the back of my truck, and it comes in handy.
If you need it, there is no other tool that will take its place, for sure.
Yeah. So
this will be a tough one for you, but do you have a favorite book and or movie?
It is a tough one. A book. Let's see. Do we split it into nonfiction or fiction?
Any way you want to do it. Your question.
Okay. Nonfiction, I don't read very much of, but because I live in nonfiction as a writer all the time. But I will say The Body Keeps the Score, which was a real pivotal book for me, and its insight. That's by Bessel van der Kolk. And fiction, I am real into lately Haruki Murakami, who's a Japanese novelist who's pretty amazing. But also anything by David Foster Wallace, or maybe Borges, or maybe Muriel Burberry. So, like I said, I like fiction a lot.
I think anybody who's a writer is probably also a voracious reader, and that would be a very difficult question for them to, could I give you my top 25? I mean,
right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, what about movie?
Favorite movie? Well, the one I just saw recently, The Power of the Dog, is amazing, with Benedict Cumberbatch or Batch, I don't know how you say it. And I'm going to stick with that one. But I do like lighter ones. I'll watch anything that's not really super dark or scary. Power of the Dog was pretty dark, but so beautifully done.
All right. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
I can't think of any. Sorry.
Well, that's fair enough.
If there's any, there's definitely a certain amount of guilt associated with bad eating habits, and I probably eat too much sugar, and most days I say, well, too bad.
Life is short. Yeah.
Life is short.
What is your favorite dinosaur?
Off the tip of my tongue, I'd have to say the one that looks like a horny toad, which is
Triceratops.
Triceratops, I think.
Mine too.
Because there's horny toads out here, and they're just so prehistoric and cool looking. So I'll go with that.
Yes, ma'am. And have you ever had a UFO encounter?
I kind of think I have. I've seen some light in the sky in the past couple of years that I definitely, and I was with people at the time, and we definitely could not figure out what it was doing and where it was going and where it came from. So I'm going with a hard, definite maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to award you 122 points, which I think is our highest score so far, Maddy. So that's an excellent job on that. That entitles you to a coupon for 50% off of a unicorn, valid wherever unicorns are sold. So we'll get that in the mail to you today.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
All right. We've broken the ice. Why don't you give us sort of a brief 30,000 foot view of your life post-college? You were a journalist writing for the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, which you still do some articles for. What was that portion of your life over on the East Coast prior to Colorado like?
It was a lot different than it is now. I got married pretty young and had children. I had all my kids by the time I was 30, and I stayed home with them. So a lot of that journalism was just an effort to juggle what I was really interested in doing, newspaper reporting and raising 3 raucous sons. So it's a bit of a blur because, I laugh with folks like Amy Skinner who are trying to juggle young children and a career, because I can remember like barricading myself in the bedroom just to have an important phone call, an interview with someone or whatever. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of parents out there that can relate to, as soon as you answer the phone or do something that's going to focus your attention, that's when kids like raise all bloody hell. And sure enough, that happened over and over in my family. And you do the best you can. But yeah, I enjoyed, newspapers kind of in my blood, and I really enjoyed the challenges around that. I think I wrote on every topic from investigative work to sports, to business, to travel, front page work, and worked with a number of editors. And I'm of the mind that the more you're challenged like that, especially working with different demands of a newspaper, everything from the quality of the writing to how quickly you can produce content, was really just great training. I'm very grateful for that. And then, let's see, when did I move to Maine? About over 15 years ago, I moved back to Maine, where I'm from, and ran a horse sitting business, taking care of other people's horses while they were away or because they're too busy. And that was also in a different but same way, really good exposure, lots of different clients and different requests and different ways of horsekeeping. And that, combined with my writing experience, was how and why I started Knicker News, which was my first website back, when was it? 2008, like almost 14 years ago. And when I started that, I think I had 16 people who I mostly cajoled into subscribing to a newsletter when I hardly knew what a newsletter was and hardly knew how to maintain a website. And it grew mostly because I was curious about horse work and people in the horse world. And I didn't think that anybody was writing about it like I liked it to be written about. So yeah, fast forward several years, I've moved. My kids are grown, of course, and I've moved, from Maine to Iowa to Utah to Colorado. And I've moved about 40 miles from where I did live in southwestern Colorado to my place now. So yeah, I'm very lucky to live close to national forest, where I can either run or ride or we're expecting about a half a foot of snow. So dig out the skis, and it's just a lot of open space out here, which is, I feel, especially during the pandemic, I feel for those people who don't have access to open space, basically out their front door, because for me anyway, it's incredibly therapeutic.
I think if I lived in the middle of a big city, I'd be a serial killer by now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Your horse sitting adventure, was that your introduction into the horse world, or had you had prior pony experience as a young girl, or where did horses begin for you?
Horses began, my mom and my grandmother, my mother's mother, were both savvy horsewomen. And I never owned my own horse until I was 40. But I got, when I was 12, a neighbor in Maine asked me if I'd like to take care of her horse when she went to college. And that was a gig that lasted about 8 years because she followed college with vet school. And so I was taking care of a horse and was invited to exercise other people's horses. So I got a lot of experience just by riding other people's horses, and I didn't really take many lessons. I mean, I think I can count on two hands the number of lessons I've taken. I have taken a few clinics over the years, and I have taken video lessons more recently with Amy Skinner, and had some kind of informal consults with my colleague Jack Ballou. So yeah, I was lucky to have horses in my life quite a bit, even though ownership wise, it hasn't been consumptive as it is for so many people.
Yes, ma'am. So I guess that brings us to the horses that you have now. What have you got?
A motley crew, Daniel. I have two horses, two mares I brought from Maine. One's, she might be 13 and a half. She was a rescue pony, paint pony that is just fabulous. We have ridden thousands of miles together over Maine, Iowa, Utah, and Colorado. And she's kind of semi-retired. It was this year that I really felt that she couldn't handle, the 20-mile days that you might have when you're cowboying. And Shay, who is a PMU, which means she's a Premarin foal, now 21, 22 years old. And she is half Belgian, half quarter. And she's kind of my guest horse who I'd put anyone on. And then my two younger horses are Barry, who folks might know if they've read my pages that he was a bit of a wreck when I got him. I call him wary, scary Barry. He's just, he was definitely abused before I got him. And he's coming around quite nicely. He's a big Tennessee walker. I don't have any papers on him, but that's what I presume because he is gated. And the first registered horse I've ever owned, and the first horse I've ever paid decent money for is new to my herd. His name's Raymond, and he's a quarter horse, and he's he's going to be good with cows. He's going to be good as I learn to rope. Yeah. So that's my crew.
Well, cool. So one thing I'm curious about, to take us back a little bit, what was there a particular catalyst that caused you to move west, I guess? Did you get sick of anything or life-changing sort of if I'm ever going to do this, it's got to be now kind of a deal, or what kind of prompted? To me, your life kind of has two halves to it. So I guess I'm looking for what started the second half, if it's not too personal or anything.
Well, actually, it is too personal. I'm just joking. No,
Damn it.
My folks lived in Montana for a decade, and I would visit them every summer with my kids. And I have been really fond of the Western states for decades, and have spent a decent amount of time. I worked on a guest ranch for a few summers in Montana prior to 15, 16 years ago. So I had some experience with the country out here. And I think what precipitated the move was getting divorced and being an empty nester. And I just saw that opportunity to get into some, in Maine, as people will tell you, and I think in so much of the eastern seaboard or really east of the Mississippi, there's very limited open space, very limited public land, and that's just not so out here. And people really, they use it, but they also, it's a lifestyle where you can just take off on BLM or national forest land, and that's really difficult. I remember riding along the side of a road in Maine and having somebody, practically clip my stirrup in terms of how cramped you feel how dangerous it is on even country roads, that motorists really don't understand the wide berth that you have to give horses and how slowly you should be going. So I was super excited to move west. And when I go back east, I am very challenged by how crowded it is and how rainy/humid it is. And to be honest, all the ticks, because I know through research that we had a Dr. Sherry King did a presentation at the Best Horse Practices Summit when we held it in Maine in 2019 about Lyme disease or tick-borne diseases. And I know from her presentation that, most horses will come up with a positive titer when it comes to tick-borne diseases. And it's such a shame. And the prospect of my dogs, my horses, myself getting Lyme or anaplasmosis or something like that was very real. And, so the timing was right. And the dream was there in terms of being realized. And so I just kind of went with it.
Well, cool. And I totally agree with you on ticks. I can have spiders crawling on me. I'll catch snakes, no problem. But if I get a tick on me, it gives me the willies immediately. I cannot stand to see a tick. I get you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to need to take a small pause here for our commercial sponsor for this episode, Maddy. So if you don't mind hanging on just a second.
You bet.
All right. This episode is brought to us by Dogma Pack. Do you find that the best news source is going back to the good old Farmer's Almanac, and that trees and cattle can predict a harsh winter better than meteorologists? Do you organize your family vacations and grocery outings around cycles of the moon, use healing crystals, or plan your love life around your horoscope? Is it clear to you that the mainstream media is right and Jeffrey Epstein just had a lot of really good friends who like to travel with him for no reason? And was he just so sad that he could no longer give career training in a safe environment like a private island paradise to underprivileged, underage girls that he hung himself? Are you the kind to blindly follow whatever the trends are because they must be the best thing, right? Thinking is hard. Do you just know that trainer you took lessons from when you were 9 was absolutely right about all the fundamentals they taught you? You remember them. They had that ever-present thermos of special Dr. Pepper and are now banned from competitions over some complete accident that wasn't really their fault at all. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, Dogma Pack is your tribe. We know for sure that the scientific method is completely overrated and that horsemen of 200 years ago clearly knew a lot more about what was best for the horse than what we do today. These modern things like knowledge of single-celled organisms, antibiotics, MRIs, and X-rays are just clouding our judgment. Certainly, those who also believe the world was flat when they wrote their books should be recognized by all as the complete authorities. Come to us to learn all the good stuff, like that black hooves really are different from white hooves. Hot and cold-blooded horses really do have different body temperatures, no matter what those modern thermometers say. You can definitely fix a dangerous horse if you just love it enough, and a foamy mouth is a wet mouth, and a wet mouth is a good mouth. Dogma Pack is where it's at, y'all. All this peer-reviewed, whatever the hell that means, and replicatable science is just in your way. Dogma has been around for ages and should not be questioned. Obey, damn it. Dogma Pack. All right. Well, thank you, Dogma Pack, for sponsoring this episode. I think this might be a good time to jump into the Best Horse Practices Summit. Maddy, what is that all about?
I don't know, but first, can you hook me up with those folks at Dogma Pack? Because I need to be with them.
I'll try. Let me put in a phone call.
Okay, thanks. Oh, good stuff. What were you saying? Best Horse Practices Summit?
Yeah, you founded the Best Horse Practices Summit, and you've turned it, into a full-blown deal. You've got a steering committee, and it's a legitimate event, very much so that you bring experts in and so forth. So give us the penny tour of of what the summit is about.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. The summit started in about 2015 when I came back from Horse Expo that shall not be named. And I was really pretty depressed about what I was seeing and the kind of things that were being emphasized and promulgated. And I felt like there wasn't really anything out there that lay people could gravitate to for best practices and to have a motto of no bling, no bullshit. And so that was how the summit was born, with that motto. And you might have to bleep that out. So apologies to you.
Nope. It's
Daniel.
Adult Onset Horsemanship. So you're good.
Awesome. And thankfully there were, groups of people who really felt strongly in the same way. And it's been not only our presenters happy to present at the summit, but people are happy to come to it. And I think we take real good care of them, and we're real thoughtful about what we put forward. And the nice thing is, I think, and it's kind of in our mission statement, is that all the presentations are recorded in a high quality way so that people can watch them in perpetuity. So we have, some 36 presentations after this year. There'll be another, I think, 9 presentations added. So we're super psyched about that because it's good stuff. And I would like it so that, people all over the world can check out, say, brain science or hoof structure or biomechanics or body work or yada, yada, the list goes on.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I personally really appreciate that. I was really hoping to make it this year, but because of all of the family stuff we had going on, I wasn't able to. But you also keep it to a fairly small group so that it has an intimate setting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's kind of it's kind of in our mission statement also, is that it will always be fairly intimate. And it's what presenters have told me is that when expos and conferences get big, that they kind of tune out their followers and attendees because there's just so many of them. And what we see at the summit is a real community spirit where presenters are talking with each other a lot and talking with attendees a lot. And there's just a lot of connections being made. It's kind of, there's a real effervescence to the conference that I think people who attend will agree that it's just a very high energy special event. And it's a real good vibe.
I have to say, one of the things as you get to training horses, it becomes such second nature to always question the motives. What makes this horse tick, and how do I motivate him, or is it a fear-based horse or what? That also carries into people, and it's a little hard to turn off. And sometimes when you get to know some of the people in the horse business, the motives that you wind up recognizing are not necessarily in line with what you might want them to be. And so I think the name and all best horse practices and all it kind of clearly demonstrates the direction that y'all are heading. And I would certainly agree that there's a need for that level of discernment and so forth. So I think it's a great thing you're doing.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'd like to say we're pretty wholesome, but it's always a challenge. One of the things that we struggle with is getting topics out there discussed and recruiting a presenter that will be able to speak articulately and compellingly on a topic, but that doesn't have an ulterior motive and that is open-minded and kind of ego-free. And in order to tick all those boxes, it can be very challenging. And I'm thinking specifically of 2 topics that are kind of on my list for needing to address, but that are really hard to attract or to find somebody that is very knowledgeable. One is nutrition and two is saddle fit. And it's not to say that people who are trying to sell something isn't worth buying. It's just that as in our group, especially with my board of directors, it's really important that folks be pretty unaffiliated. So there are challenges.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. I know. I felt like when we did the Bit DVD, I did actually have an offer for sponsorship with that. And if I'm being honest, it was from a company that would be my absolute pick of the litter to be affiliated with. But I turned it down because it was really important to me that it was completely unbiased and there was no financial motive that someone could ascribe as, we're trying to push them a certain way for a gain or something like that.
Yeah. I'd say that was a good call on your part, although I totally get the attraction of having a sponsor that would help alleviate your costs, because I know what a labor of love that was for you. It was a beast.
Yes, ma'am. Well, speaking of beasts, how about we talk about a few of your books? Your latest one is Beast of Being. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that project?
Oh, I don't know anything about it. It's all, I'm joking. When, it's funny that a lot of people will talk to me and say, oh, I want to write a book or I have a book in me. And it's such a dang process. Well, it took a few years for me to develop content for my books. And then, of course, assembling it in a manner that would be attractive as a book and chapters and whatnot, and then working with a copy editor, and then working with a book designer. And finally, by the time it's available, I'd say a lot of authors would agree with me that you're so ready to wash your hands of it. But but having said that,
I go back and watch my video over and over again just for fun. Yeah.
So Beast of Being I really enjoyed it as a project because I am increasingly believing that life with horses is life. And there's so much overlap between the work we do and the time we spend with horses and the time and how we develop as human beings. And I think that I increasingly think that if you are not right with yourself, if you are struggling, if you have trauma you're struggling to unearth and deal with, that's going to come through in your horsemanship and your relationships with horses. And, you and I have talked about this before. What is it you say? Helping horses deal with their human problems. Is that what you say?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if more people could acknowledge that they bring so much to the equation, when they turn their energy towards horses, and if they had the skills to work through what they're projecting and how that impacts the horses and how it can be good or bad or ugly or what have you, that the horse world would be better off. So Beasts of Being as a book is kind of a conversation around how horsemanship intersects with humanship, or what I call humanship. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am. And you had let's see, what's the best way to put this? You've got a bit of a partner that wrote a few of the essays and articles in the latter half of the book. And I was very appreciative. Would you please tell us about that persona, please?
I know I have to get more content out of Wallace. So Daniel is talking about my alter ego, Wise Ass Wallace. He's a BLM burro that I had for years. I found a better home for him. Wise Ass Wallace probably got out of my pasture every day because my pasture was built for horses, and he just kind of wiggle through the fencing, and he would bray. he would bray as if to command me to attend to whatever his needs were. He was a great donkey, and he was definitely opinionated. And I saw Wise Ass Wallace as just a way to kind of bitch about the shenanigans that humans are up to from an equine perspective. So Wise Ass Wallace has commented on everything from colt starting shows or colt starting competitions to bad, ill-advised gear, ill-advised disciplines that people have, and lots of stuff. And I have on tap a few Wise Ass Wallace topics where he's going to expand his reach. I just haven't tackled them yet, or I should say he hasn't tackled them yet.
I think we need more of them. I absolutely loved Wise Ass Wallace. I mean, that was I can only imagine if I had a persona that within a month it would be banned from every chat room, forum, Facebook page. Yeah. But yours is sort of just the right amount of rippling the water without splashing it too far out of the pool. So it's the balance that you have there.
Well, thank you.
So one of the things that you're into these days is writing about land use and trail riding issues and some of the conflicts and so forth, sharing the road with motorcyclists and dirt bike riders and all of that sort of stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Thanks. Yeah. Out in the West, I have a feeling that many of your listeners are east of the Mississippi. Am I correct there, Daniel?
We probably have more in the Southeast than anywhere else, but I mean, we've got them all over the world. You're talking in Namibia, Australia, all kind of places right now. So
nice. That's fantastic. Congratulations. So in the Western U.S., there's a lot of public land, and it's the land of many uses, everything from oil and gas to trail running to mountain biking, quads, ATVs to say, and paragliders, and a lot of ranching is done on public lands. And so I'm interested in how these communities interact. And I would like to say that I help educate people because it is multi-use. And I guess one of my pet peeves as a horse rider is that a lot of the communities are very supportive of their own group and don't look much beyond that, and aren't aware of the needs and the right of way of horse riders. And thankfully, Jack actually on our podcast has interviewed a mountain biking trails consultant, and he's a nonprofit director. And so there are definitely groups that are doing a real good job of cross educating, I should say, and making sure that horse riders understand bikers and vice versa. But yeah, it's something that I deal with on the trail or on national forest a fair amount. And I guess I consider it a responsibility to try to bring non-horsey people up to speed in terms of what they need to be aware of around horses. In the Pacific Northwest, I was interviewing the president of the national chapter of the Backcountry Horsemen, and he singled out like the area right around Seattle as the most dense in terms of injuries and accidents between bikers and riders. And it's just a shame. I mean, it's just a matter of being using your common sense, being sensible, being considerate, and willing to step outside your comfort circle of, I'm a cyclist and do the right thing in regards to when you're meeting a horse and rider on the trail, because if you don't, it can be tragic for everyone, and ignorance is not bliss.
Well, I can imagine one of my greatest fears as a horseman is coming across a hyper caffeinated hippie in the middle of the woods. Clearly, that could be problematic. So, uh, so what are some of the problems that you see? Some of the conflict that we're having, and from the horseman's perspective, what do you see as things we can do? I mean, is it about going to community meetings, or is it about picking up your poop and nobody complains? Or what are things from our side that we can do to grease the wheels?
So from our side, I'm going to resist the urge to say, well, it's all on the biker side and the quad rider side, and they're all insensitive and they're all ignorant. But of course, that's not true. I think as riders and horse owners, we have to advocate and be educators. And I have seen my share of horse riders just be nasty with the people they perceive as antagonistic, and really every moment out there is a moment to engage and to teach. There's lots of times where out here I'll say, hey, for instance, if a mountain biker is approaching from behind and they can be fast and they can be silent, I will just yell, hey, if you could just talk or yell or sing or do anything you can to make sure that we can connect you with a sound that's helpful to my horse and it's helpful to me. A lot of bikers, in fact, with Jack's interview with the mountain biking advocate, they have bells that they can ring, which is super handy. They don't have to talk if they're breathing hard. And just an awareness that, especially to inexperienced horses, those cyclists are, sneaky predators coming up fast and quiet. And so, yeah, I tend to think that any moment can be a moment to engage and teach. As far as, public land and moving cows, that's a whole nother bag of worms that probably for your readers is not real relevant. But again, it's other people who are using the public land tend not to be real savvy when it comes to how to behave around cows and horses. And that can be real unfortunate, because they can essentially, if you're just trying to drift some cows through a space and they park their quad thinking they're doing the right thing, but they're actually blocking the way and making it a royal pain to get through a space, then that can be unfortunate. And I've seen that happen a lot.
Yes, ma'am. The average person really doesn't understand much about horses or livestock or large animals at all these days. We now have these electric motorcycles too that make almost no noise. And I have not had a personal experience with one of those and a horse, but I can imagine the potential there for sneaking up on and scaring the teetotal hell out of has got to be high.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people think that bringing less noise to parks or public land is a great thing, and it might be. And there's a big push out here for electric bikes on public trails, and yeah, that has its own set of challenges. So Frans de Waal, who is a famous primatologist researcher, I think in Georgia, he called out his fellow researchers years ago, and he said, in order to study creatures, you have to know them intimately before you pull together any plan to study them, because you will do a disservice to your subjects if you don't. And I think that we all need to have a great understanding of these things we encounter before we judge and before we think we know the answers. And yeah, it's like you said, with e-bikes or with electric cars, that all the things that are silent, are we considering all the factors that go into how this machine or how this animal interacts with something? and how much don't we know? And of course, us humans can be kind of blind to what we don't know.
Yes, ma'am. You bring up some of the research. I actually do read a pretty decent number of that type of stuff and some of the studies. And I have to say, I know horses better than anything, but I am pretty commonly shocked by some of the holes in this research where it's evident that the researcher had no concept of what this animal is about. And you could just drive a Mack truck through some of the holes in their suppositions and things they didn't account for and so forth. And also on the point of the e-bikes, I believe there's some pretty consequential evidence by the BLM. I know it hasn't been widely reported, but I think the e-bikes actually put out a sound that attracts bears like mad. I know there's been something like 13,000 e-bike users in the backcountry eaten by bears. So hopefully when that gets around, maybe we'll solve some of that problem for us.
Either that, or it could be a natural selection thing where all of a sudden there's a lower population of knuckleheads out in the backcountry.
One of my bucket list items is to start a conspiracy theory, and that one might have legs. We'll see if it gets in.
Sounds good. Keep me posted.
Sure. So one other thing you've had, I guess, somewhat recent experience with is some of the wildfires out there. I know one of the conversations we had, it was getting pretty close to your place. So what was that like?
It was pretty exciting. I've done, just as a sidebar, I've done a lot of writing around evacuation and best practices around, having horses and being in a crisis or an emergency. And I'm a big fan of what Technical Large Animal Emergency Rescue is doing, which is we had Dr. Rebecca Husted, formerly Dr. Jimenez Husted, who came to a Best Horse Practices Summit and presented on that. And I just, as a horse owner and as someone who is communicating with a lot of horse owners, I think it's so essential to know what to do in a critical situation and to have your horses prepared for critical situations. So the East Canyon fire it actually started by a lightning strike, probably in the middle of the night, about 600 yards from my home. And I was out clearing trail and came back into the pasture I remember it was a lovely Sunday, mid-morning, and my friend calls me. And of course, back in the pasture was the first that I could get cell service because it's Southwest Colorado and because cell service is crappy and because I was living in a canyon. But he said, "Maddie, did you hear about the fire?" And I said, "What fire, Wayne?" And I turned around like a cartoon character, pivoted in my boots, and there is this huge expanse of fire right behind me that I was probably a quarter mile from it, kind of ensconced in clearing trail with my dogs, and didn't hear it, didn't see it, didn't smell it. And about that time, I got a text out here. Most of us are lined up with Nixle, which is a kind of an emergency preparedness type of texting service. And we're under mandatory evacuation. I had my trailer hooked up, my go bag in my truck, my dogs all set, and my horses loaded within an hour. And we had to stay out of the canyon for about 5 days. I was lucky that I had a friend's place where I could drop my horses and another friend's place where I could stay. So it was, in the grand scheme of wildfires, it was small and nominal, which is to say about 6,000 acres burned. But it, as anyone who's been evacuated for wildfire will tell you, it's not small and nominal when you're in the mix. So yeah, it was interesting to have written about it, and I've covered fires in the past for newspapers, and then to actually be in it was, it really got the adrenaline going. And I will say that around here, of course, wildfire is a big thing. And our community actually practiced an evac. So like all the things that we knew we had to do in terms of having a go bag, which basically has, change of clothes and all your important documents or whatever. Those were things that I had been educated on what to prepare and how to get out quickly. And T-Lear courses that I've taken and the research that I've done, that was a real godsend to have that all in my back pocket. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
So you're basically telling me that if someone were to go over there and sneak raisins into your go bag, they would have a double shot at ruining your day.
I might let the raisins pass for that day, but they'll be held to pay the next day. Yeah. You're coming full circle. How brilliant of you, Sir Podcaster.
My wife tells me I never listen. I'm like, have you listened to my podcast? I listen to everything they say.
Maybe you should have her on as a guest.
She interviewed me for the first one. And
shoot, I got to listen to that.
It went very well. We had a great rapport, and then she has not wanted to do one since. So we also had 3 fights right before that episode. You can't tell by listening to it, but
Oh, I'm all over it. I'm going to go back and listen.
Okay, well, I have a final question for you.
Yes, sir.
You are an influential figure in the horse world, whether you intended to be or not. What does success in this picture look like to you?
That's a really good question, and I'm staring. I'm staring outside, trying to figure out how I would answer it. I have a really hard time with the whole loop of affirmation and attention that being a little more known than I was years ago brings. And I tend to dismiss it out of hand because I'm very suspicious of affirmation and attention. And I also am a strong believer of, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I think that measure of success would be how successful the people around me are. And, maybe just me getting older, but that would be how I'd like to measure success going forward, is to see the summit, for instance, do well without me going forward, and to see the presenters, if they wanted to copy that model or to elevate their game because of their experience at the summit, or any number of ideas kind of along those lines. That would be really cool.
Well, that's a very thoughtful answer. Well, Maddy, I think we can call it a day right there. I certainly appreciate you coming on, and we'll have links in the description to the y'all's podcast and the summit website and all of your various things. I would definitely encourage all of the listeners to join up for the newsletter. Check out their podcast. It really is a good one. I'm a subscriber to it myself. I listen to all of the episodes, and they do have some pretty cool and sometimes out of the mainstream type people that are giving you that message that's maybe a little more current and accurate than what's typically marketed to you in magazines and so forth. So good place to get some good information.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me on. And I really am a fan of what you're doing. And I will continue to follow you. And I'm glad you have fans out there that are latching on to what you're doing, because it's good stuff.
Yes, ma'am. I call them the ticks. So
did you run that by public relations before you labeled them that?
No, I'm kind of anti-public relations or the watered down version of it. I try to get the full essence without deodorant. So
All right. Well, thanks again.
We'll see you next week for another episode of Adult Onset Horsemanship. I've been your host, Daniel Dolphin.